Hi everyone, it's Jen again. This week I've been sick. So the respiratory infection that my son had, I ended up getting in full force. So the only thing I really got accomplished was Miyetta's skill trigger animation, which I started out doing one way and then I scrapped that and I decided to end up doing it a different way. And I was happy that I just kind of started over again. But that's one of the reasons why we do rough sketches, is so that we don't get too invested in something before we decide that it's not working for us, and we can still move on to something different without feeling like we've lost too much time. So you can see in this sketching here, I was starting to refine some of the very loose keyframes, and somewhere in the middle of that I just decided that I didn't like where it was going and started over again. This week I thought would be a good opportunity for me to talk a little bit about the subject of combating perfectionism, which I have mentioned in one of my other videos before, that I would touch upon that subject someday, and I don't think I ever did. One thing about, I guess, being sick all this week was that it gave me some time to reflect through my frustrations. When you run into major roadblocks in life, I would say, is when you really have an opportunity to kind of, I guess, stress test, like, is this really working for me? In the case of like my creative process and my outlook on life, and just trying to live the best life I can live, and my creative process is a huge part of that. So trying to find balance with that, and with managing my life obligations and everything, has always been a pretty tight struggle. And this past week, it just kind of gave me some time to reflect and reevaluate, is this really working for me? Is my approach on life in general and my creative process working for me? And so I just thought I would share a little bit of my findings as I was thinking about that. And then in the process of that, it brought me back to the whole idea of perfectionism, and where my personal struggles in life have been with perfectionism. So I want to preface this discussion by saying I'm not a professional, and these are just my personal views. And if I'm plagiarizing in any way, if I'm sharing the opinions of somebody else, I apologize. I'm not aware of that. I'm sure there are other people who have come to the same conclusions that I have. This is just what kind of works for me and where I've come to in my life, how I work through my issues, and whether or not that would work for you, or if somebody else drew the same conclusion, is purely coincidental as far as I know. So I want to start by saying that I don't believe that beliefs or feelings are something that you can choose. So there are some, I guess, kind of modes of thought of positive thinking. Like, if you believe this, it'll become true. Or if you tell yourself this enough times, you'll believe it. I've personally never felt this way. I feel like if you have an experience, like you in the case of gravity, okay? Gravity is something that is easy for me to believe in because I witness, the effects of gravity every day. I see it's constantly being reinforced that an object falls when you drop it. When I jump up, I come down. So if, somebody were to tell me to stop believing in gravity, it's like you could put a gun to my head and I could say, okay, I don't believe in gravity anymore, but deep down inside, I'd still believe in it, right? So that's how I feel about true beliefs. There are certain core beliefs that I have that no amount of people trying to convince me otherwise is really gonna change my belief. And maybe for a time I can try to convince myself that I don't believe that anymore, but my behaviors, my emotions, my reactions all still point that I still believe in those core beliefs, right? And I believe the same thing with feelings. Now, I don't use this as an excuse to just like do whatever you want based on your beliefs and your feelings, because those are things that you can't necessarily control. I do believe that we can still control our actions and how we react and how we interpret those beliefs and manifest those beliefs and feelings. So that's the key distinction for me. And some people would maybe think that I'm just being like, I don't know, semantic or something. But for me, like, it's a very important distinction. So where the core of my perfectionism lies is that I have a core belief from being relinquished that people, or at least me, myself, I'm not owed love for existing. I don't believe in unconditional love. And I believe that it was only when someone had a role for me to fill, a want, a need, that I was lovable. So when somebody wanted an able-bodied, affordable girl, that's when I was taken in. And it was like a bonus if I was compliant, pretty, and cute, if I met their expectations and their wants. So some people would probably be quick to tell me, well, this is not true, all kids deserve love and everything like that. But in my experience, that's not true. That's what being relinquished and the time in the orphanage taught me. Even though I don't remember that time very clearly at all, I don't really have any clear memories of that, there was something in my foundation that, subconsciously in my experiences told me that. And there's really no amount of reasoning that somebody can tell me that's going to change that belief that I have based on a very formative experience. And so what does that kind of core belief do to my feelings? It makes me feel insecure, unattached, unlovable through most of my life, and no amount of telling me that I am important or that I am loved, really no amount of words really counteract those feelings. And I don't really feel like it's anybody's responsibility to try to fix me or convince me otherwise, because again, this was something that was just, it's a part of a very formative part of me that I don't even know if it is possible to correct that belief. So throughout my life, especially my childhood, and I'm going to focus on my childhood first. This belief and feeling manifested in a behavior that I was not conscious of at the time, but it was perfectionism. And this perfectionism was rewarded because I was pretty capable of doing the things that were expected of me. And the better I did those things, the more I was praised and rewarded. And the more that I was given positive attention. The more that I masked and I told people what I thought that they would want to hear from me, the more that I was socially rewarded. So this led to a lot of people pleasing, which also was very rewarding. Anticipating other people's needs and wants, and trying to fulfill those things, becoming very hyper aware of others. And that was also very socially rewarding. So the things that were not socially rewarding that this resulted in, though, would be bouts of depression, times where the need for control and anticipating other people's feelings, you can't have those things without anxiety. It's an enormous amount of mental load to mask and try to people please and try to be perfect. And of course, the old saying goes that nobody is perfect. So it's just it's an enormous amount of stress to put on oneself. And so this inevitably leads to depression, which leads to these kind of thoughts of withdrawal, being around other people is so exhausting. Who needs other people anyway? Anxiety, I can't keep doing this. At some point I'm gonna fail. Or you do fail, where it's like, oh, I didn't get 100 on this test. I only got like a 95 or something like that. And thoughts of, delusion, right? Like, nobody really likes me anyway. Nobody really knows the real me or cares about the real me. So what would it matter if I just disappeared? And of course, these moments of depression are very socially shunned, whether or not, people outrightly tell you that you need to change your attitude. That is what society tells us. Like, oh, you're broken now. We need to fix you, and you need to go back to being the way you were, all the other behaviors that we preferred. And so that only reinforces the core belief that, that I need to do all these things, perfectionism, masking, people pleasing, in order to be lovable and accepted. Because the depressed part of myself sort of ended up feeling more like the real me, even though it was a result of the perfectionism, masking, and people pleasing that was like very tiring and wore me out. During the moments of depression were times where I felt a sort of relief from all the control and anxiety, that it becomes identifiable to like the real me, of like me letting down my mask. And then when people are like, this is the part that we need to correct because it's not good for you to be in this state of depression, that ends up reinforcing that core belief that the real you is not acceptable, is not lovable, is not desirable, is needs to be, not the way it is. So it ends up being like this just kind of a reaffirming cycle of, reinforcing that core belief, no matter what people actually say. That is like the experiences that keep on perpetuating that perfectionism, which is why I feel like it's so insidious, is because like when you're a kid especially, it's kind of cute, this kid who's like so mature, seemingly mature for their age, who cares about all these little details and who's like striving for very high goals and stuff. Like, oh, we like this, this about this child. A lot of times it is very socially reinforced, and it's not really seen as something that could be problematic. But again, with like the type of discussion I was having before about like highs and lows, like all that comes at a cost, and that cost is depression. You can't have perfectionism without anxiety and that need for control and masking and people pleasing and affirmation, desperate aspiration. You can't have that perfectionism without all the negative things, because that's what drives it. So and also that, that fundamental belief at the core, at least for me, I guess, maybe perfectionism means something else to other people. So what ended up finally kind of breaking the cycle for me, because I'm a very analytical person by nature, I guess, was not so much like, learn self-love and those types of like, philosophies. Those types of things did not work for me. What worked for me was thinking about it from more objective analysis. Is this productive? Is this sustainable? Is this the way you want to live the rest of your life? So let's kind of go over your beliefs, and let's think of a way to like reframe them in ways that's more productive. Like, I can't force myself to believe something differently about it, but like, let's try to reframe this in a way that is more productive. So here's another set of core beliefs, is that nobody really thinks that much about you but you, which I believe is true. Like, nobody is sitting here microanalyzing all my actions and thoughts and like, running me through these like moral tests and stuff, except for myself. And if they were, then that would be creepy, and I should probably get away from those people who would be like super overanalyzing every little thing that I do, right? Number 2, I am a human being that's wired for social interactions, and withdrawal is not a healthy option. I cannot just withdraw from human society and human relationships and expect to be okay. Number 3, control is an illusion, and what we really have control over, is very small, a small sphere of influence, and all the things that really, really matter are things that I probably don't have much control over anyways. And as far as the little minor things that I do have control over, what's the really worst thing that could happen? Number 4, and this is a big thing for me, I guess, that a lot of people might disagree with me on, but I don't believe that life was meant to be about happiness. Life is actually a struggle for survival. And when I look at life as a whole, as a planet Earth thing, and within the universe, it has always meant to be just a struggle for survival. And that doesn't mean that there aren't moments in life that are enjoyable, that are rewarding, that are satisfying, that are all those things. But at the end of the day, I guess I don't believe that we are owed happiness. At least not in any long-term, sustained way. That's just impossible in my mind. Okay.
This is nothing.
So where does this become productive? For me, it's in after analysis comes focus and reframing my beliefs in a way that are more productive. So I guess instead of asking questions like, do they like me? I think more about was that interaction constructive? And I don't even need to say that is it a positive or good interaction. Was it constructive? Was that worth time and energy? And most likely it was, because I feel I need interactions in life in order to have a healthy, sustainable outlook. Okay. And then so instead of platitudes well, you're struggling now, things will get better tomorrow, I focus more on the thing that was better. So during this whole time that I've been having this respiratory disease, I haven't been able to sleep on my side, and my chest is hurting a lot. And then last night I was able to sleep on my side, and it felt fantastic. So that's what I just keep thinking about today. I'm yes, that was great. I finally got to sleep on my side. Being a lifelong side sleeper and getting to sleep on my side after 7 days of not being able to sleep on my side felt really, really good, satisfying. And then with the perfectionism angle, you could always find something wrong with something, right? So if I want to focus on oh, this wrong, that's wrong, this wrong, well, now I'm just it's not that it's not wrong, it is wrong, but there's something charming, unique, and personal about human imperfections that, especially with all the AI and stuff, I guess, coming out there, my imperfections in my art and writing and whatever it is in my personality, it's okay to be true to those, because that's what makes me unique from other people who are maybe not making the same mistakes as I am. Okay, well, that was me blasting through a bunch of talking points. I actually did try to write it out today so that I would be able to just get out those ideas. And I think I'll just leave it at that. And if you want to share your beliefs or what things kind of work for you or help you get through your life, your philosophies, or you disagree or agree, please share with me in the comments below. And I hope you all have a good week and stay healthy. And don't forget to enjoy the process. Okay, bye-bye.
Whoa, lucky. Kneel before me.